In this section, we're looking at combinations of functions. Combinations are when we would be adding and subtracting or multiplying and dividing different functions. So for this first example, we're looking at, we have our f of x is going to be x squared for these examples, and g of x is 4x minus 5. So if I'm going to add those two functions, what this really looks like is we're taking f of x plus g of x. So we know f of x is equal to x squared and g of x is equal to 4x minus 5. At that point we could simplify. In this case we do not have any like terms, so that would be our answer in simplest form. Now if I'm subtracting, then same logic, I'm again going to take f of x minus g of x. So in this case we're taking our x squared minus, now we're subtracting this entire quantity, right? Subtracting the whole function, so that's 4x minus 5. So when you subtract that, it's going to change both these signs. So when we simplify, we have x squared minus 4x plus 5. That would be our answer in simplest form. When we are multiplying and dividing, now we're going to take our f of x times g of x. All right, so we're going to take x squared times the quantity, or times our function g of x, which is 4x minus 5. So we end up with, going to distribute that, 4x cubed minus 5x squared. And here we have division. We could think of that as f of x over g of x. Again, our f of x is x squared, and our g of x is equal to 4x minus 5. Now, one thing we would have to pay attention to here is when we're dividing, that means our g of x cannot equal 0. We cannot divide by 0. So when we're talking about the domain of this combination, we can have all real numbers except we know that our 4x minus 5 cannot equal 0. In fact, we might want to simplify that. If we look at 4x minus 5 equals 0 and solve for x, add the 5, divide by 4. So we're saying that it cannot equal that. So our domain would be all real numbers except x cannot equal 5/4. Now we're also looking at composition of functions. Now composition, what we're looking at here is f composed with g. That would be the proper way to read that. And what we're looking at is, I'm actually going to be plugging in g of x into f of x. Again, we're saying that our f of x is x squared, our g of x is 4x minus 5. So then we're going to take f of 4x minus 5. Again, our f of x is x squared. So we're taking this quantity, 4x minus 5, and we are squaring that. We could go ahead and multiply that out. We would end up with 16x squared minus 40x plus 25. Remember to FOIL that. You have this quantity times itself. And if we're looking at this composition, we have g composed with f. So that is g of x squared. So now we have x squared plugged in for x. So then our simplified answer, 4x squared minus 5.